We interrupt our normal program to cooperate in security and civil defense measures as requested by the United States government. This is a Conelrad radio alert. Normal broadcasting will now be discontinued for an indefinite period. Civil defense information will be broadcast from time to time on 640 kilocycles or 1240 kilocycles on your AM radio receiver. I repeat, this is a Conelrad radio alert. Normal broadcasting will now be discontinued for an indefinite period. Civil defense information will be broadcast from time to time on 640 kilocycles or 1240 kilocycles on your AM radio receiver. This station will now leave the air.
How you doing? This is the guy from Pittsburgh. Two of those sounds you just heard, well, my parents lived through one of them, the Blitz in London. My father heard it in the Philippines. My mother probably heard it in Germany as Germans bombed London. The warnings were there and the signs were there. They were not heeded. Hitler could not be appeased. I lived through those Conelrad alerts in the 50s and 60s where we thought we were going to be nuclear attacked at any moment. And living in Washington, D.C., we thought we had 15 minutes to live during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And now the appeasers in our own government, like John Kerry Barack Obama, would have us go to the edge of destruction on a day that should celebrate happiness and joy, peace, goodwill to all men and women. Steve Forbes, in his Forbes magazine, a 2014 issue, is absolutely right when he says Obama's deal is shameful and dangerous too. Winston Churchill had it right. I'm quoting from Steve's editorial. On May 24, 1940, as the Allied military situation in France was rapidly deteriorating, Britain's Foreign Minister, Lord Halifax, made a drastic proposal at a meeting of the War Cabinet. Britain should explore a separate peace with Nazi Germany. Excuse me. Winston Churchill was horrified, hammering home the profound truth that once talks started, they would rapidly take on a life of their own. The war would be over, leaving Britain at the mercy of the Nazis. Churchill stressed that Hitler was implacable. Having ignored Iran's character, the Obama administration appeases it, Stephen Hayward says, a contributor. And Israelis and Saudis in the Iranian agreement, Strator, contributor. The mullahs of Iran are implacable and absolutely determined to get the bomb. The Iranian economy is in shambles. The sanctions, which took years of painful diplomacy to put in place, are finally taking a real toll. Congress is ready to enact more severe ones. Yet there was Secretary of State John Kerry oblivious to what Churchill knew about implacable opponents. His deal with Iran is a disaster. The sanctions will begin to crumble. And as we saw what Saddam was saying, sanctions have an effect, but some dictators, like the ones in Iran, ignore the sanctions as long as they can in favor of their rhetoric and inflaming their own people with lies and mistruths, including those that the Holocaust never happened. Bear with me for a minute. I'm looking up a word because I like to know what words mean. Implacable, impossible to placate or appease. That's what Hitler was. That's what Saddam Hussein was. And that's what Ahmadinejad and the new other leader in Iran and the mullahs are. Iran's nuclear weapons efforts will be barely denied by an agreement, or dented, that has loopholes bigger than the proverbial dump truck to drive through. And now this negotiating process will take on a life of its own. Iran knows the U.S. must keep the talks going lest it look like it failed, like so much of Obama's policies have failed around the world and in this country. We're told all the time that the economy is getting better, and yet retail sales for Christmas, despite a strong first week, continue to slump. People aren't shopping in the stores. They're shopping online because they get cheaper prices. They don't have to pay the rents and the extra salary of brick and mortar stores. They're cleaning out a Barnes & Noble that's going under because a linen company bought out their lease, much to the distress of loyal Barnes & Noble customers. But Barnes & Noble didn't care about keeping the store that people loved in Pleasant Hill. A lot of people are ticked off about that. But I'm digressing. Kerry may not know what he's doing, but President Obama knows exactly what this means. Iran will become a nuclear power. Obama's position is for us to get over it and cope with a new reality. To him, the U.S. presence in the world is a force for bad. And Iran is an aggrieved power that the U.S. and Britain didn't do right back in the 1950s, if not earlier. Israel's security? Obama thinks it brought on most of its troubles itself anyway. Iran probably won't nuke it, so what's the big deal? Well, Iran probably won't nuke Israel. If you believe that, I got the Golden Gate Bridge to sell you, or Candlestick Park before they demolish it. Just like during the phony war, the Britons thought they were safe from Hitler, and they weren't. They were bombed. Their cities were bombed, their cathedrals were bombed, their people were killed, their airfields were bombed, their pilots were shot down. France was overrun, Belgium was overrun, the Netherlands were overrun. There's no stopping dictatorship. There's no stopping the forces of evil in the world. You have to take a stand. And we don't have a president who takes a stand against the forces of evil. Because he doesn't believe there are any forces of evil in the world. The only force of evil to Barack Obama is America. He thinks we're a force of evil when we've been a bulwark for freedom for over 200 years. So when you hear the sirens go off, and the Iranian Navy has launched their missiles from their submarines, or they'll launch their ICBMs with aid of their ally China, who wants to put bases on the moon to get the helium-3, and who may wind up lobbing rocks at us and other countries that they don't like or which submit economically or militarily. Remember the name John Kerry and Barack Obama. And remember the American people voted for both these men in their folly. And we pay their price for their stupidity and their hatred of the principles that made America great and that still make America great, but not in their eyes. This is a man who is more interested in flirting with a woman at a leader's funeral, at dealing with the reality of the world, that there are countries and people that hate us and seek to destroy us every minute of every day. This is the guy from Pittsburgh saying, "I'll see you next time," if there is a next time. And maybe Ed Dames is right with his harbinger of doom on Coast to Coast last night. I hope not. I hope the Dr. Doom is wrong. But the clock is ticking. And it's up to you and me to tell the man in the White House it's time to turn the clock back and stop the madness of appeasement. And I'll catch you next time.